Is Katy Perry fighting for what's right? Or is she exposing a ruthless side of Hollywood that no one really wants to see? On one side, you have a global superstar worth hundreds of millions, a woman who says all she's chasing is justice. On the other, an 85-year-old war veteran, bedridden, battling a cruel brain disease, and spending his final days in hospice care. The two aren't fighting over music. They aren't fighting over fame. They're fighting over a $15 million mansion in one of the wealthiest corners of California. And the question everyone's whispering is this: does Katy Perry truly need this house badly enough to drag a dying man through years of legal battles? Or is this about something bigger, power, pride, and proving that no one, not even a frail veteran, can stand in her way? Back in the summer of 2020, while the world was still reeling from lockdowns, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom were busy building their picture-perfect life in Santa Barbara. They already owned 3 multi-million-dollar properties, but when they toured this 1930s Montecito estate, something about it felt different. 9,000 square feet of polished old-world luxury, rolling lawns, guest houses, and even its own tennis court. It was less of a house and more of a statement. For Katy, who had just welcomed her daughter Daisy, this wasn't just another investment. She imagined family barbecues by the pool, Daisy's childhood memories in the sprawling gardens, even a quiet retreat for herself after years on the road. And in true celebrity fashion, she and Orlando swooped in with a cash offer, $15 million, no questions asked. But the seller, Carl Westcott, was no ordinary homeowner. He was a millionaire many times over, the founder of 1-800-Flowers, a self-made man who had climbed from poverty in Mississippi to the rarefied heights of California wealth. Yet behind the glossy success story, Carl was a man in pain, fresh from surgery, medicated heavily with opiates, and quietly suffering from Huntington's disease, a brutal neurological disorder that steals memory and judgment little by little. Here's where things turn strange. Just days after the papers were signed, Carl had a change of heart. He told his family, and eventually the court, that he hadn't been in his right mind when he agreed to sell. Imagine this: you've just had a 6-hour operation, you're doped up on heavy painkillers, and suddenly you're signing away your multi-million-dollar home. His lawyers argued exactly that he wasn't of sound mind. His children backed him, saying the whole deal felt wrong, rushed, maybe even predatory. But to Katy and Orlando, a contract was a contract. They wanted this house, they wanted it badly, and they weren't about to let it slip away. According to people close to them, they had already started picturing raising Daisy there, maybe even making it the heart of their blended Hollywood family. So when Carl tried to pull out, they fought back, hard. The battle dragged on for years, and it wasn't just a quiet paperwork shuffle. This was 4 years of lawyers, expert testimony, and accusations flying back and forth. Westcott's side painted him as a frail, bedridden man whose judgment was clouded by drugs and disease. Katy's team countered with their own experts, insisting there was no proof Carl lacked capacity when he signed. Some insiders whispered that Perry and Bloom were determined not only to win the house, but to make an example out of the fight, to show that no one, not even an ailing millionaire, could back out of a deal with them. Whether that's true or just gossip, what we do know is the judge eventually ruled in their favor. The sale stood. Katy and Orlando had their mansion. For most celebrities, that would have been the end, but not for Katy. Because once she had the deed, she went back to court again. This time, not to defend ownership, but to demand millions more. Katy's lawyers filed for damages, claiming the property had been left in poor condition and that she had lost out on years of rental income during the dispute. The numbers shocked people: $1.1 million in repairs for things like basement flooding, another $225,000 to fix a guest house roof crushed by a fallen oak tree, and most controversial, $3.5 million in so-called lost rent. At first, she demanded $6 million. Later, she reduced it to $1.3 million, but the number wasn't what grabbed attention. It was the idea. A woman worth more than $350 million demanding cash from a dying veteran whose family said he barely understood what was happening. That's when the narrative shifted from Katy Perry wins mansion to Katy Perry squeezes a dying man for money. All of a sudden, Carl's sons, charged in court, erupted publicly. They accused Katy of having zero empathy, of being the kind of celebrity who hides behind wealth and lawyers while crushing ordinary people. Chart even called it entitled Hollywood behavior, blasting her in interviews for treating his father like dirt. Behind the scenes, friends of the family whispered about the stress the case had brought, about Carl being bedridden, about his condition worsening, about how the lawsuit had cast a shadow over his final years. And as this played out, gossip blogs and Twitter threads threads exploded. Some fans argued that Katy had every right to enforce the contract. Others painted her as heartless, a millionaire pop star punishing an old man for daring to challenge her. The split was sharp. Was she defending fairness, or was she simply flaunting her privilege? In court, Katy tried to push back against that image. Appearing on video, sipping from a metallic blue water bottle, she calmly explained that this wasn't about greed, it was about justice. When asked if she hoped to gain anything from the case, she didn't hesitate. Yes, justice. She admitted she could lose money on legal fees, on missed rental income, but to her it was about fairness. She even brought Orlando back into the narrative, calling him her partner and family for life, despite their breakup just months before. Some saw this as a way to soften her image, to frame herself as a woman defending her family, not a pop star crushing an old man. But the public wasn't convinced. For many, justice sounded a lot like millions more dollars. And then, just when people thought the case couldn't get any uglier, came a twist that had fans and gossip blogs buzzing louder than ever. Because remember, throughout all of this, Katy Perry's main defense was that she wanted the mansion for her family. She had told the court, and the public by extension, that the property wasn't just another celebrity trophy home. No, this was where she pictured Daisy running through the gardens, where she and Orlando would create memories, a safe haven away from the chaos of Hollywood. But fast forward just a couple of years, and that dream home, the house that supposedly symbolized her family's future, she wasn't even living in it. Instead, she quietly went out and bought another luxury property just a few miles away in Montecito. Yes, another one. And then she turned around and rented the Westcott mansion out, and not to just anyone. To another Hollywood name, Chris Pratt, his wife Katherine Schwarzenegger, and their children. The moment that news leaked, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Critics jumped at the chance to say, see, this was never about family, it was about power, it was about prestige, and it was about money. Because if Katy truly wanted that house to raise Daisy in, why was she letting another A-list family enjoy the very home she'd fought tooth and nail for in court? Online forums lit up. Some fans speculated that maybe Katy and Orlando had never intended to live there at all, that from the start, this was about securing an investment in one of the most exclusive real estate markets in the world. Others whispered that the family home narrative was a clever way to frame herself as sympathetic during the trial, when really it was just another multi-million-dollar asset in her portfolio. And to make matters worse, the optics couldn't have been worse for her public image. Here was a billionaire-adjacent pop star demanding justice from an ailing veteran in his last years, only to turn the disputed property into a rental for fellow Hollywood elites. To Westcott's family, this wasn't just proof of greed. It was proof that their father had suffered through years of courtroom stress for nothing, that he'd been stripped of his home only for it to become a luxury cash cow for a pop star who didn't even need it. The gossip blogs had a field day with it. Headlines screamed that Perry had fought a dying man for a house she didn't even live in. Twitter threads compared her to other celebrities accused of being out of touch, calling her tone deaf and cold. And the irony was impossible to ignore. While Carl Westcott lay bedridden, his family begging for dignity in his final days, Katy's house of controversy was being enjoyed by another celebrity couple, taking afternoon swims and family photos on the same property. For Perry's defenders, it was still a matter of principle. They argued that she was simply exercising her rights as a buyer, and renting it out was just smart business. But for her critics, this was the smoking gun. The moment where all the talk about justice started to sound less like a fight for fairness and more like a carefully rehearsed line to cover up the reality that this was always about money, image, and control. And just like that, the mansion stopped being a family home in the public's imagination. It became a symbol of celebrity excess, of Hollywood privilege, and of the kind of battles that leave the rich richer, while the vulnerable fade away quietly in the background. As of now, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom legally own the Montecito mansion. The question of damages, whether she'll collect more money from Westcott's estate, remains unsettled. Carl himself is bedridden, in hospice, his family saying every day is a miracle he's still with them. For them, this fight has become about dignity, about defending a man who can no longer defend himself. For Katy, it remains about principle, about standing firm on the idea that a deal is a deal. But here's the truth. In the court of law, she's already won. In the court of public opinion, the jury is still out. So was Katy Perry defending fairness, or was she flexing her Hollywood privilege against a dying man? Some say this is proof of her ruthless streak, that behind the pop star smile is a businesswoman who never lets go of a dollar. Others insist she's simply standing her ground, protecting herself from being taken advantage of. But the question remains, when the dust settles, will Katy be remembered as a woman who fought for justice, or as the star who went to war with a veteran for a mansion she didn't even live in?